it's a form of self-hypnosis for exercise. You have the thoughts on that? Would you mind speaking on that for a moment?
I do. I've worked with a lot of athletes and trainers and people that want to level up their game. And one of the things that I found most effective is simple visualization over and over and over again, because the mind really can't tell the difference. If we create this scenario, I'll say to the client, I want you to give me step by step how this is going to go down. How are you going to feel? What's going to happen? What's your purpose? What's the result? How long is this going to take? And then we feed that back into the mind. And that's part of where you want to do your self-hypnosis.
Hello and welcome. I am Coach Castle, a certified biomechanics expert, nutritionalist, and efficiency coach. Subscribe to this channel to learn the most efficient ways to maximize your muscle growth and recovery, enhance your body, and advance your mind, all using the latest science. Welcome to Castle's Corner.
Hello and welcome to Castle's Corner. I am Coach Castle, joined today by my good friend Gloria, who's actually a trained hypnotherapist, and she's done it to me as well. And today's podcast, we're going to get into hypnotherapy and how it affects you, how it benefits you, and a bunch of other stuff. So Gloria, hi, how are you? Thank you for joining us. And would you mind introducing yourself?
I'm Gloria Danvers. And as Coach Castle mentioned, I am a trained hypnotherapist, but I have done hypnotherapy with Coach Castle, not to Coach Castle.
So I'm sorry, you should make that distinction, yes.
Yes, it's important to know that this is a process that we do together. So I deal with a lot of different issues. My primary specialties are anxiety, relaxation, trauma. Let's see, I work on so many different things, empowerment, changing the script, changing your childhood script. I couldn't even tell you all the things that I work on a weekly basis. I work with pregnant mothers for childbirth. I work with a lot of athletes. Recently, I worked with an MMA fighter, and that was just great. For each person, it's a different protocol.
So now everybody apparently has heard of hypnosis. Some people believe it, some people don't. Hypnotherapy, I'm not sure how far it goes back, but I know it does go back quite a ways. And it is well documented. Most people use it for, let's just say, reprogramming themselves, abolishing bad habits, or replacing habits, resetting parts of themselves, quit smoking, increasing focus, all of those things. We're going to get into all that stuff today. And I suppose we should say, well, who do you think, in your opinion, would benefit the most from hypnotherapy?
Well, first you have to understand what hypnotherapy and hypnosis actually is. Hypnosis is a natural state that people are in and out of several times a day. There's driving hypnosis, there's training hypnosis. There's all kinds of different hypnosis. People aren't even aware of it. If you actually had to stop and consciously do all of the things that you do while you're in a state of hypnosis, you wouldn't be able to handle it. That's just what it has a lot to do with your autonomic system. When your autonomic system is basically trained. So, when you first started driving and things were really scary and you had to say, oh my gosh, I had to hit the brake and I got to look in the mirrors and all this. You do this without thinking now. So in hypnotherapy, what we do is we take that natural state that you're already in, which is hooked up to this enormous plasticity in your brain. That's what allows you to affect changes, to learn new things, to drop old habits, to dispel false beliefs. And we use that as a tool together to create the life that you want, the thoughts that you want, the thoughts that are going to enable you, and the habits that are going to enable you to have a better life.
Mm-hmm. Now, I should say, just to mention the neuroplasticity that you just mentioned, I speak on that quite a bit myself. It's very important to understand. People have this notion that as you get older, your neuroplasticity crystallizes and you basically lose the ability to learn as efficiently, or so on and so forth. Now, this is not actually true. It's well documented. This is not true. I don't know where this started from. When you're younger, yes, you do have more neuroplasticity, but even as you age, even as you get super old, we're talking 80s and 90s, you can keep your neuroplasticity extremely, let's say, flexible. But you can do this through a lot of different ways. I mean, you can do it through hypnotherapy. You can do it through different, I don't want to say like Kundalini breathing practices, things like that. You can do it through microdosing, psychedelics. You can do it a lot of different ways, but you have to understand that the primary thing here with neuroplasticity is learning new things or even replacing bad habits, as I previously
Right.
mentioned.
That's true. I've had clients that were in their 80s that were fabulous. And after we completed our work together, they actually couldn't believe that they had gone that long with carrying the baggage that they carried, and the preset mindsets, and were able to so easily and organically, and here's the word that I love, organically. It is not a scary process. You just gradually start thinking different things and moving in a different way. It actually, I think hypnosis and hypnotherapy is very gentle on a human being, because it's a natural way of learning, and because we're using your natural abilities and your natural resources, it's very easy just to segue into that.
I would agree, because it is a slow process, as you mentioned. And I mean, anyone who knows anything about most things, everything that is good is a slow process.
Right.
You don't lose weight rapidly, and if you do, it's not healthy. You don't change your personality rapidly. You don't rapidly change careers. You don't rapidly write a good book. None of these things are rapid. They all take time. And the benefits of hypnotherapy, I mean, I myself, again, I should say I've experienced the benefits myself with you, several other people. But it's quite amazing. A good metaphor, I would say, I guess, is people have this notion that they crystallize their brains, they harden, they stop learning. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. You've heard these things. But it's not true.
I have.
And it's simply not true. And when you get that kind of a mindset, you have a fixed mindset. And when you have a fixed mindset, it's the opposite of a growth mindset. So guess what? If you have problems in your life and they're there and they're not going away, that's because you have a fixed mindset. If you had a growth mindset, you'd be adapting and overcoming those things. You get the fixed mindset from your brain crystallizing. So think about a snow-covered mountain, and think about a bunch of kids going up that mountain every day to take their sleds down the mountain. They're going to keep doing that for weeks. They're going to keep using those same exact grooves over and over. And eventually they're going to forget about the rest of the mountain. They could go sledding down. This is how you are with your problems and your habits, your bad habits, lots of times. You keep going down the same problems. You keep seeing the same thing. And when you come to the hypnotherapy, or other means of achieving this end, it's kind of like snow is gradually falling, filling in those tunnels, and then you can see the rest of the mountain. You can adapt, see new solutions, make peace with your past, all of these other things.
Right.
It's not to steal your thunder, sorry.
That's quite all right. I'm listening. That's all right. Here's two things that are really important. First of all, you have to have the desire. The desire is absolutely the key to change. If you have a true and deep-seated desire to better your life, then my work becomes very easy, and so does yours. The other thing that perhaps people don't always look at, which I find a lot in my practice, is that there's always a hidden secondary gain in staying where you are. Because what happens when you level up? What happens when you make those commitments? When you make those commitments to work out, when you make those commitments to move forward? I can't hypnotize the fear out of you. So the fear is, well, now I'm going to have to perform. Now I'm going to have to change my life. And since you can't always see the future, these can be really daunting. So I would never say we're going to take your fear away. What I say to people is, I'm going to help you be confident enough mentally and emotionally to move through this, trusting that there is something better for you on the other side. But you really have to look at that secondary gain. A lot of times when I work with smokers, I'll say, what's the worst thing that can happen when you quit smoking? And they'll tell me, they'll say, well, I can't hang out with my friends anymore, and I can't take a break at work. You've got to look at the things that are important to people that are serving their dysfunction. That's really where you want to go. It's not that they want to or they don't want to, in their dreams, in our dreams, we're all superheroes. But there's always that underlying, why is where I'm at working for me? And is it working for me so well that I really just want somebody to tap me with a magic wand and change me so that I don't have to deal with the consequences or be responsible for it?
I couldn't agree.
A lot of people will come to me and they'll say, I just want you to change me. Well, I can't do that.
That's not how it works. I mean, you made an excellent
Constant.
comparison earlier with exercise. I would say that's a
Right.
wonderful comparison, because my job is really easy if someone is actually serious and committed to change, because then I
Right.
can tell them what to do, they listen and they do it. But I should
Mhm.
also mention, going back to the neuroplasticity, I should say your body, everyone's body responds completely differently when you voluntarily face something which is causing you distress or fear. So if
That's
you
true.
Yeah, so if you want to quit smoking and you keep putting it off, I guarantee you, if you just try one day of setting a timer, how long can you go without that cigarette? You're going to feel real good when you finish that. And if you keep upping that time, you're going to keep getting more and more dopamine, which will help you
Right.
get away from the smoking or help you get in contact with somebody like Gloria, because now you're taking it seriously. When you
Sure.
run away from things and, oh, sorry, but when you run away from
That's
things,
okay.
when you run away from your problems, when you just kind of sit there and you tolerate your problems, you've essentially just given up. That's that fixed mindset again. You've given up, you've stopped analyzing yourself, and you've stopped growing. When you voluntarily choose to shoulder the responsibility of getting better by your own definition, that's when you can truly be helped, because you're then susceptible to being helped. Well, and I should say, back to susceptibility, how do you know if somebody is susceptible to hypnosis? I mean, I mentioned it briefly with you a moment ago, but unless I'm mistaken about the numbers, something like 15% of all people are highly susceptible. I believe it's 20% are very low susceptibility, and then the rest of people are just somewhere in the middle. Now, they've done MRI scans of people's brains who are, going through the hypnosis and such, the actual process, and what shows up is that the Nordstrom, the Rostrom part of the brain is focused on attention, basically, and people who are highly susceptible, that part of their brain is much larger, rather, I should say, than people with very low susceptibility to hypnosis. So what could you tell me about that, and how do you gauge somebody's
Well, I can tell you
susceptibility?
that I don't assess my clients clinically like that.
Oh, okay.
I really don't. I don't look at anyone who is going to be my client and say, I wonder if you're 15% or 60%.
Well, I wouldn't think you'd do that.
I don't do that. This isn't how I operate. How I operate is really organically. I take you at face value. I work with you. It is not up to me to judge your susceptibility when you come to my chair. It is my job to make you comfortable enough for you to open up to the level of capability that you have for your mind to receive that message. And it can be all different types of level. A person can be in a really light hypnosis and get a fantastic benefit from it. People think that you've got to be really down and practically unconscious to get the benefit, and that's not true.
Oh, that's true.
My job is to take you to the level of comfort that your mind has in order to accept the suggestions.
Now,
So
when you get,
I'm not assessing, and I'm not saying, I work with clients, probably each client I'll work with from between 3 to 10 sessions. Every single session is different, but I will say this. I can work with you the first time and you'll say, well, gosh, that was really relaxing and I feel good. I wasn't out, but sometimes I felt like I was drifting a little bit. The next time we'll go a little deeper and we'll go a little deeper, because as your mind listens to my voice starts to become the voice of change. And it starts to open. If I'm saying things that your mind likes, that is congruent with the image that you want to have of yourself, progressively, you will go deeper and deeper. It is just, and a lot of my clients are really super type A personalities. I have a lot of attorneys as clients and physicians. I have people that are really bang up in the business world and they just come in and just let go.
I
So
should
you
speak
can never really assess.
I should just speak from personal experience real quick. I mean, just because I'm sure a lot of people have not experienced this, and I mean, I have actually multiple times. So I'll tell you a few times, I'm not sure my susceptibility. I know that I am at least susceptible because I've been hypnotized multiple times, multiple ways. For me, I can say, well, my session with you, for example, if I remember correctly, it was more of a eyes open meditative state. I didn't feel the need to move. I was very comfortable and relaxed. I was very relaxed with listening to you. I had no trouble listening to you at all with what you were saying. There was no feeling of being frozen or anything like that. I was just very happy, kind of stuck to the couch, if you will, very engaged in listening. But then again, I can also say where I've had times where I had been hypnotized and I'm not even sure if I was, but then they would snap their fingers and I'm, oh God, I was on a beach. I thought I was on a beach.
Sure.
And in the moment I was so sure I was not hypnotized, but then, and they'd snap their fingers and I would realize, oh, I was not actually, what was just happening? And I've been so out of it. And then I think more than one time, I simply couldn't get into that state of mind. I think more than likely it was my chemistry at the moment. I was very agitated and frustrated and it wasn't the best time to be doing it. But I can say there's definitely multiple experiences. For me, the best experiences are always where I'm just kind of relaxed. Again, I kind of call it like a meditative state where I'm just chill and susceptible to listening, and time passes very differently then, if you will. But
it's a time distortion, and that's actually one of the ways that you can tell that you're in hypnosis. But you experience time distortion when you're driving. You experience time distortion when you're working out. This really goes back to my original statement that hypnosis is already a natural state. So if I've got this is already a writing implement. Right? All I do is click the pen and focus that writing. So instead of it simply becoming an instrument, now it is a tool. So that's probably the difference there. You know, it's a matter of understanding how someone's brain works, and every person is different. Every single person is different. And understanding and getting about how their brains work, and then getting their brain on my side so that we can do that work.
And I would think that it makes a difference, comfort level too, just while I'm thinking of it. And one of the reasons I was so, well, on top of the fact that I know you, one of the reasons I was so comfortable with you, it was actually because I was in my house on my couch, you know, relaxed, just looking at you on a screen, listening to you in headphones. It was very relaxing. There was no uncomfortableness, no unfamiliar smells, unfamiliar place. I don't know this person, you know, what's going to happen. No, I'm just in my house, very comfortable, very easy to relax with you. It's not quite the case when you meet someone in person. You know, the first time you're kind of, you know, a little off. It's not quite the same. You have to
a little agitated. You don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Right. I can't speak for every hypnotherapist, but this is my general rule. I'm not going to take you on as a client unless I have at least a half an hour to 40-minute conversation with you. And that's really that. Number one, I'm already going to get a sense of, you know, I don't just listen to the words. It's like being an artist. When you look at a picture, you see the positive spaces, you see the picture, but it's the negative spaces that are holding up the whole scene. So when I'm talking to you on the phone, I'm not looking at you. So I'm not seeing the picture. What I'm doing is listening to the spaces in between. And it's really important for me to let my clients know that I am a human being, that I do like to laugh, that I'm really comfortable, because by the time they come to me, then they'll already feel like they know me. And honestly, Castle, it just takes so much of the anxiety away. There's nothing like a couple of good jokes to let somebody just flip off their bra and sit in the chair and relax and be open. So Zoom has actually been a great boon to my business, which is something I didn't understand before, in that people can be comfortable in their own homes. They've got their kitties.
It's the same thing when I switched to online coaching, though. It was the same exact experience for me. I was like, well, you have to have a gym, you have to train in person. But then when it was online coaching, my message was getting across so clearly because the person was only sitting there looking at me, listening to me. They understood everything. When it came time for the workouts, they were doing their workouts like in home. Most of the time they're in home doing their workouts. They're very comfortable. They're not being judged by everyone in the gym. It's a very similar thing, you know? So let's you know what, one thing back to the susceptibility, I wanted to ask you about this just because I don't know. You know, you see the stage magicians, they go up on the stage. I wanted to know if it's the same process. So what happens once they call a volunteer to go on the stage? I imagine that the person that they're calling, I mean, I think it's a real person, you know what I mean? It's not a setup, but I know lots of times. It's a real person.
It's a real person.
Well, I know, but I mean, it's not an actor, you know what I mean? They're calling an actual person up. And so when they call the person up, my idea here is that the person is already in a state of high anxiety. And then what the magician tends to do is a common movement, like a handshake. And what happens is they'll shake their hand, which is normal, kind of, you know, like automatic, but then they interrupt the process. They'll show the person their hand, or they'll do some bizarre movement to make it just snap them out of it. And then they'll give them a command, sleep, you know, whatever. And it generally speaking works. Now, is that because they're in a state of heightened emotion and then they get taken out of it and twisted? I mean, I know I'm kind of simplifying it, but.
No, you're not really simplifying it. Actually, you're kind of making it a little bit more complicated.
Oh, okay.
So
Carry on
what
then.
happens is, all right, now imagine that you're on stage, right? And you're the hypnotist and you're looking out at people. So you start looking for what we call abreactions. And here's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone leaning forward. You're looking for someone looking up. You're looking for their eyes shining. You're looking for their jaw dropping just a little bit. This is where you see that they are extremely susceptible to hypnosis. So you pick those people. You say you, and you. So you get up on stage with them, and then you go through what you just said. You'll shake your hand, you'll talk to them. You're judging their micro expressions the whole time. Not only their facial expressions, but do they lean forward? Do they pull back? Do they look around at other people? Are they engaged with you? If they're engaged with you, if they're smiling, if their jaws are dropped, if they're flushed, if their necks are flushed, this is all the heightened susceptibility that they're in for the experience, and that they're going to be, it's not fake. They are hypnotized, but they're there for that. They're down with the experience no matter what. So he'll go down the line and you'll see people, say, okay, you go sit back down. You go sit back down. He's judging all of these micro
So that's how they do it. The judges.
Right, exactly. So the people that are left on the stage have all of the qualifying micro expressions. They have the flush on the neck. They have the flush on the cheeks. Their eyes are moist and shiny. Their jaws are dropped. They're leaning forward. There are other, micro expressions that you look for as well, but those are the main ones.
Just out of curiosity, I don't even know where this came from. I can't remember where I saw it. I think it was like the X Factor. I don't know if you probably did. Somebody sent it to you. Somebody had a trained dog on stage with them. They said would hypnotize people. The dog would hypnotize people.
I never saw that.
I was so curious. I just assumed you'd seen it. I'll see if I can dig it up and send it to you, because I imagine it's not the dog, but it's just, I remember watching it and nobody moved except the dog. So I was like, is the dog actually doing this?
This again is the power of belief. If you believe that something's going to happen, if you want something to happen, if you're engaged in that, the probability that it's going to happen shoots up 80 or 90%. And that's also perception. Whether or not the dog can really hypnotize anyone is something we may not know for a long time unless somebody does an in-depth study on it. But if you believe that it happened, then that's your perception. This is where you live. It happened.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I'll say a lot of times, you and I and Kathy could be walking down the street together, right, in our park. That used to be mine and Kathy's park before it became your and Kathy's park. Right? Okay, and you've got on blue glasses. I've got on red glasses. She's got on green glasses. Each one of us would swear up and down that the world was that color.
Oh, of course.
Because that's our experience. And this is what hypnosis does. It allows you to have that experience. A lot of times people will say, how can you know if what your client is telling you is the truth? How can you know, if you're working with trauma, that the story they're telling you under hypnosis is what really happened? How do you know, if you're doing a past life regression, if that's what really happened? And my answer is, you don't know. But this is their story, and this is how it's affecting them. If this is the story and it's causing them distress, then I have to follow the client and go to the root of that distress, where the story originated. And that's where we work from. It's never my job to judge anyone. It's not my job to judge a smoker. I happen to love smokers. Smokers are some of my favorite clients because I was a smoker. Here's what I know. Smoking was more than just smoking. It was a way of taking a pause when I was having a conversation with someone. It was a way of ending an art session. When I was finished with what I was doing, sculpting or whatever, I'd light up a cigarette. It was a coping mechanism. Instead of just going off the bend, I would pick up a cigarette, take a pull in. What does that remind you of? That's breathing. That is activating the vagus nerve. My job is to understand what smoking did for you, what it does for you, why it is a self-soothing mechanism, and to separate you from the harm of that while finding something else that will soothe you that is not harmful to your health. So I've worked with a lot of bartenders, and I'll say, do you have a bar straw? Oh yeah, we got them all over the place. Well, don't pick up that cigarette. Pick up a bar straw and stick it in your mouth. You can mimic the motions. Or I'll have them breathe. I'll say, take that pen, put it in your mouth. Draw in, blowout. What did you just do? You took that deep breath in. You gave a diaphragmatic release of breath. You activated your vagus nerve, which is your reset. But here's the thing, along with resetting your body, which is why people say, I need a cigarette to calm me down, you're also pumping poison into your body. And the poison is just wreaking havoc on your body. It's making you anxious. It's making you sick. So here's the dual thing about smoking that's so horrible is, on one hand, because it's using your body's natural autonomic system of reset via activating the vagus nerve to calm you down, it's also just killing you, and you feel it. This is something that once the brain can understand that you can separate that from, that this is really killing you, then it becomes your partner in helping find another way to occupy your hands, to change state from one room to the other, or one project to the other, to manage your anger by simply breathing and not picking up a cigarette, and most importantly, doing something with your hands until you're far enough away from the smoking. It could be a week or 2 weeks or a month away, to where you don't need these anymore. You don't need the props. You don't need the straw. You don't need whatever it is. But one thing that is the brain is afraid of having this dear coping mechanism taken away without anything to put in its place. It's saying, this has been my thing for so long. This has been my comfort. It's been my boyfriend. I spend money on it. I have lost social connections. I don't date because of this. This is really important to me. How am I going to manage without it? So it's important that when you're separating people through hypnosis from smoking, that you also give the brain something else.
That's really important. I mean, I've helped people quit smoking just by being mindful. I mean,
right.
I shouldn't say just by being mindful. I mean, being mindful all day is very hard to do. But,
right.
I mean, if you just think about, what does this taste like? What does this do to me? People react to me differently. People, generally speaking, when it comes to smoking, it's a habit. It's usually a social one. And the excuses they come up with, generally speaking, have to do with losing friends, or not being funny, or people not liking them, or not having that break, like you said, not getting the,
right.
But there's a million
it's
ways
an
to do that.
emotional habit too.
Yeah, there's a million ways to do that.
Instead of expressing your feelings, you pick up a cigarette.
Yeah,
because you, again, want that breath. But what you don't realize is that you can have that breath. You can have that release. You can have that reset without pumping poison into your body as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, for a long time, I struggled with many things in my life, but the main way I always got over everything I was struggling with was, for me anyways, it helped to actually understand the systems and why the hell it was doing what it was doing, why I was reacting the way I was. I mean, scientifically, right. When you understand why something works, it's much harder to pretend to be ignorant monkey and keep doing it. Because once you understand it, and you know what it's doing to you. Why would you continue to do that?
Because you have a deep emotional connection to it. And that's my job. That's where I go.
In my case, I do much better when I understand something.
People need to soothe themselves. Self-soothing is so important. Even if you look at a baby and you can see them rubbing their faces, or they've got a blanket and they're doing that, all of these little things that we do to soothe ourselves, you twist your hair, you chew your nails. These are all habits that, so smoking is absolutely the worst one. That's the worst one you can soothe yourself with. But when you're feeling anxious, when you are not coming to grips with what you're really feeling, self-soothing is a great way to get comfort without actually confronting the issue, which most of the time, and I'm really, I'm very loving and compassionate to human beings, because they just don't know. And even when they know up here, they don't know in here. You're not always dealing with somebody who's 35 or 40 or 50 years old. If this self-soothing habit started maybe when you were 5, or you started smoking when you were 14 or 15 and kids were picking on you and, all of that stuff, or I started smoking when I was 14 because I was that weird kid that wanted to fit in, and smoking was part of that. It's so much more than just knowing. And so you've got the emotions of that 5-year-old or that 14-year-old or that 20-year-old there to deal with, because that's how they coped. Mm-hmm. So you're not dealing with an adult. The adult is the one who has the habit, but it originated with the kid, and the kid is the one that's got to be addressed. Mm-hmm. That's why That's why childhood work is so important. That's why the inner child work is important. And I have a lot of clients that say, well, I came to grips with all of that. And, but then they'll tell me they had a meltdown when something didn't go their way. And I said, like you're 3, right?
Yeah, somebody told me no.
It's because somebody told me no. Because at that moment, they're not dealing like an adult. They're dealing straight from their 3-year-old self. And that's the only coping mechanism their 3-year-old self has. So in hypnosis, it's kind of my job to bridge those, to find out how the adult that you are, you, the thinker, can bridge those feelings with the child to educate the child and give the child something to hang on to so that you can kind of, parent yourself in a lot of ways with mindfulness, with thought, with education, like you say.
And I mean, as you've said, I mean, I should just mention it again, but it is a slow process, and it's a slow process by necessity. So there's no way to, if you're not getting results in 1 or 2 sessions, I mean, that's like saying I didn't lose weight going to the gym twice. It's
right.
the same
but there's
thing.
always results.
Well, I mean,
but the results are really up to your
incremental.
brain. Yeah. What you're looking for are specific results, especially with weight loss. That takes a lot of time because so much eating, I find with my clients, is emotional eating. It's stuffing. Here comes this horrible feeling. I'm sad. I don't feel good. I'm miserable, but food makes me feel better. But let me say this, there's a spiritual space inside of you that is very often deprived, and you can't fill it up with alcohol. You can't fill it up with food. But yet when you're empty, when you're not feeling loved, when you're not feeling connected, when you are feeling isolated, this is the part of you that you try to fill up with food. And that's why it's really tricky, because sooner or later, you're going to be triggered and you're going to feel isolated. You're going to feel lonely. You're going to feel sad. And there's this big hole here. What is the most, the quickest way to fill that up is to go to the refrigerator and get something that's full of butter, that's got lots of sugar in it, and to soothe that.
But then guess what happens? But then guess what happens after you eat that?
It stays on your body, but it still doesn't fill up your soul.
Yep. And you do it again, and then you feel bad that you did it, and you do it again, and you feel bad that you did it, and it's a circle.
It is a circle, and then it brings up guilt, it brings up shame, and it brings up loathing. And these 3 negative emotions become intrinsically attached and coupled with eating in any form. So food, which should be a beautiful pleasure, which should be a form of nourishment, now becomes something that's bad. And you've got to separate that from your good, healthy eating to your comfort eating.
I should mention just real quick. I mean, my listeners hear this in a lot of my talks, but some people from you might be turning into this. So I just like to say that a lot of times, goes back to understanding scientifically, by the way, a lot of times you have those food cravings. You want to eat, you want to stuff yourself, you want sugar, you want all that stuff. You have to understand that's not actually you who wants that. That is your gut biome. That's your intestinal bacteria. And every time that you feed them that sugar and stuff that they want, they get stronger and they ask for more of it. So your job, so your job is to recognize that your gut biome is the enemy. And when you recognize it's the enemy and your job is to slowly starve it of resources, just like during a castle siege, you want to slowly starve it of resources. Your job is to identify the gut biome is your enemy. Every time you have one of those cravings, identify it as the enemy, starve the enemy. And if you do that for 3 or 4 days, your gut biome will be depleted of the harmful bacteria and you will no longer have those cravings. But this won't work if it's emotional eating. We'll keep doing it. But it will help having this knowledge and having an enemy to actually legitimately call an enemy. You're not weak. You're not mentally undisciplined. You legitimately have an enemy inside of your stomach forcing you to put these things in your mouth. So if you recognize it is an enemy and not just a weak part of yourself, then you can attack it. And that's a big difference.
I agree with you up to a point. In my way of working, I'm not going to identify anything as an enemy because most people come to me in a state of high anxiety. And these are not words that they need to hear.
Well, in your field,
we can explain that to them. And I can say, once we uncouple your emotional, satisfaction from this eating, you have to understand that your body is a system.
A
And that
biological
there are
system.
good parts of the system and there are not good parts of the system. So we have to identify in your system what is working for you, and we have to identify in your system what is not working for you. But the healthier you get emotionally, the healthier you get mentally, the less likely you are to feed the parts of you that are not working in your best interest, because you are a system.
And something else that should be mentioned, something, again, I say this frequently, but just for your listeners as well, it's really easy. All of these things that we're talking about, getting help, getting a gym, exercise, diet, all these things are extremely easy with one single catch. You have to love yourself. Now, the problem is people don't love themselves because they know who they are, what they've done, the people they've hurt, the silly decisions they've made. So they have trouble loving themselves. If you treat yourself like someone you legitimately care about, you will suddenly find everything becoming very easy for you. And,
I think that's true. You know, I often say to my clients, would you talk to your best friend like that? And they say no. And I say, well, would you talk to your child like that? Would you talk to your sweetheart like that? Why are you not the beloved? Why are you not the precious one?
Because in case you didn't notice, if you're not around, you can't really see anyone else. So you're kind of important.
So like I said, if people come to us for different things, by the time my clients get to me, a lot of times they're in such a state of heightened anxiety. They have such terrible self-esteem. They have literally swallowed everything negative and terrible about themselves they could find. It's like Pac-Man, right? Oh, this is bad. Somebody said this about me when I was in third grade.
Shove it down. Yeah, shove it down.
Right, exactly. So my job really is to untangle you from all of that. And I actually know people that you will compliment, and they can't take the compliment, and then they'll jump over 6 compliments so that they can land on the car that says you suck. It's like Evel Knievel. They're constant. They will always want to validate the things that are wrong about themselves. And honestly, when they're in my chair, that's the first thing I want to do, is start feeding them the information that they are just fine. You are just human. Yes, there are things that you did that you're not proud of, but guess what? You care, because a true sociopath does not care. People who are really, really, damaged in a lot of ways, they're not sitting around wondering what they did to other people and feeling bad about it and piling guilt on themselves.
Absolutely.
They're busy looking for other ways to get over on somebody. So just by the fact that you feel bad about what you did or what you've done, that already makes you a good person. Don't try so hard. Don't keep digging for the garbage, because there's a lot of good stuff here right on the surface.
And you can always become a better person the next day.
You always can, like this, like this. When my friend and I go for a walk every morning with my friend, and for the past few days, I was thinking we're going to get hit by a car. So, because we like to walk in the street, we're 2 old ladies and the sidewalk's not big enough for both of us, right?
Well, don't be manifesting that.
No, I didn't. But she's always saying, "Oh, why do you worry about that?" Well, this morning we were across the street and a car came around really quick, and I was like, I said, I felt validated by that. But I said, see, you know what? You have to be aware and mindful all of the time for everything. And she said, well, we're good people, so it didn't hit us. I said, it doesn't matter whether you're a good person or a bad person. It only matters that the car comes around that moment. If you're mindful, if you stay where you are, then you're fine. You're good.
I talk about mindfulness all the time, but you could, in that particular area, I would call it situational awareness, just paying attention.
I'm just really intuitive. I'm very psychic. I'm very psychic and I'm very intuitive, and I do know what's around me. You
should. Or else you will get hit by a car.
Right, exactly.
360 people a year die from coconuts on the head in Florida. Don't sit underneath coconut trees. Situational awareness, folks. But anyways, something else I wanted to chat about, just because you mentioned exercise a minute ago. This is something I do. I won't get too much into it, but I like to prepare myself before my exercise. Now, my exercise is high intensity exercise. That means very difficult exercise. I'll keep it simple. It's very difficult. It's very intense focus. It's extraordinarily physically demanding. It is extraordinarily painful. And you actually have to look for the pain and try to increase the pain. You want to make it more. So you have to be extraordinarily focused to do that, obviously. So I mentally prepare myself before I go to the gym. Well, I should say I go in the gym and then I mentally prepare myself. But I take 5 to 10 minutes, and it's almost like self-hypnosis. I have several very specific things that I listen to which remind me of how incredibly important what I'm about to do is, how I
Right.
must do my best because I do not have another chance. I have no other options. I must succeed. And it's a form of self-hypnosis for exercise. You have the thoughts on that? Would you mind speaking on that for a moment?
I do. I've worked with a lot of athletes and trainers and people that want to level up their game. And one of the things that I found most effective is simple visualization over and over and over again, because the mind really can't tell the difference. If we create this scenario, I'll say to the client, I want you to give me step by step how this is going to go down. How are you going to feel? What's going to happen? What's your purpose? What's the result? How long is this going to take? And then we feed that back into the mind. And that's part of where you want to do your self-hypnosis every day before you play your sport, before you work out, whatever it is that you're doing, before you're fighting. You want to visualize this in your mind, step by step, exactly how it's going to go. Because when you're there, your mind is, again, how you drive down the street and you drive the same way every day to work. This is where we're going to take that natural hypnosis and we're going to apply it to your workout or to your sport, to where your brain is automatically creating this because you've run through that scenario so many times. And it doesn't take long, a couple of minutes. The other thing that you might want to do is stop in the middle of your workout, or when you're really flush with every kind of chemical, with every kind of good feeling, when you are really the king of the world and you can touch your elbow, you can do like this. I mean, you can, put your fingers together and say, this feels fucking amazing. This is the most amazing feeling I've ever had in my life, right? And that's what we call an anchor. So as you visualize this, now you're stepping into the emotions. It's not just about seeing it, but it's about feeling that flush, and your body is already reacting. Okay, so the difference would be like your body's going to create a certain chemical reaction to something that is imagined just as realistically as it will to something that's actually happening. Mm-hmm. So once you set that anchor for yourself and you start working, your body will respond to this. Your body will respond to this, a tap, and it will automatically start producing these chemicals for you that will aid you in your workout, will aid you in your sport.
Yeah, I call these triggers with my athletes. When it comes like specifically, it was just for me. But when it comes specifically to like my bodybuilder athletes, I always tell them, because you know this, but bodybuilding takes years to do. You don't get years and years, sometimes decades to get a good body. And as you're going through that process, it's 24/7. Your meals must be perfect, your exercise, your sleep, your supplements, everything must be perfect. And you can imagine how extraordinarily mentally demanding and draining that is on people, on top of their other lives, jobs, families, and everything else. So what I tell them over and over and over again is fast forward. See yourself on that stage. You're holding the trophy. What's it feel like? What do you look like? Who's in the crowd watching you?
That's exactly right. This is where you want to go, and then if somebody can't figure out how to get there, we start with that. And then I say, what does it take to get there? And we go backwards.
Mm-hmm. Work it backwards.
What did you do right before that? Well, I did this and this and that. And before that, what did you do? So if a lot of times with clients, if they're difficult, if they can't project fast forward, we get them where they want to be and then we run it backwards. Mm-hmm. So it's easier for them to run backwards to see how they got there than it is for them to run it forwards to see how they'll get there. It's funny how your mind works that way. I always say it's like a house. If you can't get in the front door, then you have to go around and go through the back door.
That's true. Yeah. There's always a way in somehow. There's a way in.
There is always a way in somehow. You have to listen to how people process too. A lot of people are very visual. So, and if I know they're visual, if I'm talking to them in conversation and I say, tell me about yourself and where do you want to be? Well, I see myself, blah, 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 blah. And they can describe it because they're so visual. This is how they process. Some people are very auditory. And so I'll say back to them, I hear you saying this, or I heard this and it made me wonder. People give you clues in conversation, whether they're visual, audio, or kinesthetic, how they process. And that's the other part of it. When you are helping them visualize this, you want to speak in their language. That you have to listen to the way that people process, because when you're feeding this information to their brains, you have to speak the brain's language. This is a problem that I find with a lot of clinical psychiatrists and therapists, is because they've got all of this clinical training they're using words that the client doesn't really understand. The brain doesn't understand. The brain is not a complicated organism. It's just not. It thinks in pictures, it thinks in emotions, and it is most comfortable when it understands what's being fed back to it. So I listen to your language, the way that you speak, the way that you view things, and this is what I feed back into your brain. And then this becomes part of your training every day, that you're going to visualize this until it's so natural that you don't even think about what's going to happen when you get in the ring. You already know what's going to happen when you get on stage. You already know, because you ran that scenario a million times. And athletes and people that are bodybuilders, people that work out, they're great to work with because they're used to being coached. That's what's great about you guys. They are used to being coached. They're open to it. They don't think they know everything.
That's a biggie. That's a biggie.
And they really, they're so open to this because their end goal is this is where I want to be.
And they've already, most of the time,
say takes me there, that's where I'm going. There's no ego. There's no anything else. This is where I want to be on this island. And here's the boat. And if you've got the boat and you can get me across, I'm going to do everything you tell me to do. And they do. They're great.
Now, that's a good thing about most athletes, most bodybuilders, for example. Back to what you said, though, is when I get, like, you wouldn't believe the number of people who contact me. They say, oh, I'm a bodybuilder. I want to be a professional bodybuilder. And I say, okay. And we kind of do a run through real quick. We chat about it. And it turns out they're not a bodybuilder. They're somebody who lifts weights. They don't actually know what it means to be a bodybuilder. So I'll literally just send them a couple of videos. I say, well, this is what it looks like on stage. This is what it takes to do it. This is about how many years. This is the effort. And usually they're like, oh, I don't think I want to be a bodybuilder. But that's because you actually showed them what it would take. Now, if you show that to someone who is committed to be a bodybuilder, they say, yeah, I know, let's go. It's a big difference.
They'll say, thank you.
Yeah, I already know, let's get working. What's next? Right. It's a big difference, but it's a level of commitment. It's a level of volunteering yourself at doing whatever it takes. Something I, again, speak about all the time is whatever it takes. Everyone has a different definition of that. For some people, they'll watch this podcast. They're going to see you. They're going to think it's a wonderful idea. They definitely need your help. They're going to see me. It's a great coach. Definitely going to call him up. They're going to have these. Yes. But then guess what's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen from it. Nothing is going to come of it. They will not contact either one of us. They will not call us. None of these things. It's the people who are watching this. It's not really, it could be a matter of timing. It could be a matter of many, many, many different things. I don't want you guys to watch this and be like, oh, I'm going to contact them, and then you don't. It's fine. It's just not the right time. Lots of times in life, you may not actually be ready to take that step, and that's okay. But if you think that you are, I would highly encourage you guys to contact Gloria. I tell you how great she is. To contact me if you want the assistance, to contact anyone in your life you think you should be contacting, because the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to get a no. And I just recommend everybody get over that, because it's going to happen anyway. So you might as well just, if you want help from somebody, or you're looking to get help from somebody, just go ahead and ask for it. The worst thing that's going to happen is a no. And I just recommend everybody get over that, because it's going to happen anyway. So you might as well just, if you want help from somebody, or you're looking to get help from somebody, just go ahead and ask for it. The worst thing that's going to happen is a no.
You know how many times I talk to so many people on the phone, and my booking rate is pretty good. I probably book 85% of my calls, but it doesn't matter whether, I'm dedicated to giving the information. I'm dedicated to making them feel comfortable. When they book with me, that's great. If they don't, it's not their time. But here's what happens when they do. They've already started in their minds. They're already starting to clean house. They've already started to wipe out the obstacles just by making that phone call to you or making that phone call to me. They've already started doing our work for us. And I appreciate that, because there's nothing that is better than a client who is already engaged in the process.
They've already seen your videos. They've looked up the subject. They're on board with it. I want you. Yeah, that's the one we all want. But lots of times, and I do also, once again, something else I say is quite frequently, there's many, 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 many people in the world who don't even need us. They just need information. And these are the kind of people I really like, because these are people
I like them too.
You just give them information and they're off to the races, So what would you say to somebody like this who's just looking for the information? They don't really need our help. What are thoughts on let's say, strategies for self-hypnosis, for self-resetting bad habits or resetting behaviors? What are some techniques you could say someone could do themselves?
The first thing that I would say, and I know you'll agree with this 100%, is start breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Breathing is the key to everything. A lot of people don't realize that we have this perfectly balanced parasympathetic system, and that for everything that goes wrong with us, for every place that we go that goes to feel, we've also got a toolkit, and it all starts with the breath. It does. To sit for a couple of seconds. I do my 3. I'll say, just take a deep breath in and then blow it out. Lower your shoulders. If you do 3 sets of that takes 20 seconds. To take 20 seconds in the morning, 20 seconds at noon, 20 seconds in the afternoon. What happens during that time? You're not in the past and you're not in the future. You're right in the now. And the problem with most people that they have a super anxious brain. That's why they can't focus. Mm-hmm. They're either worried about what they didn't do, ashamed of what they did do, or worried about what's going to happen in the future because they can't predict it. And so but here they are, and they absolutely cannot handle being in the moment. So the first thing I would say is breathe every single day. Breathe your 20 seconds. Go and look you've got some great videos, the Wim Hof breathing. You have some great videos for breathing. And I teach my clients, it's the first thing I teach them when they come in. Breathing. I send out recommendations. This is what I want you to do. Every time you change state, when you get in your car, do your 3 sets. When you get out of your car, do your 3 sets. Before dinner, do your 3 sets. Before you go to bed, do your 3 sets. Get your body in the habit of self-regulating itself. Because
I would sorry, Vera, but I would just say that what you just said, something I speak on called chaining habits. So if you're trying to integrate the breathing into your new lifestyle, or how you're trying to become your new lifestyle, I would say, what you want to do is literally say, every time you go to the bathroom, just go in the bathroom, close the door, sit down, and then just do, whatever you said, or box breathing or something for like 30 seconds. And then you're chaining that habit. And if you do that, you might get 5, 6, 7 times a day. But the benefit to this, just to doing that, is you're being extremely mindful of the moment. And within 1 or 2 days, you will really, promise, you'll notice that you're noticing more about yourself. You're able to control your emotional state better.
Right.
You're paying attention to your surroundings better. Mm-hmm. And it's just from breathing a couple times a day. Changing the habit.
That is my number 1. The other thing that you're doing is you are teaching your body how to feel good. So you can imagine a lot of people that and I know as well, they go from crisis to crisis. And so there's that steady adrenaline, that steady cortisol running through your body that is so debilitating. So here's what happens when your body is in crisis, when you have a lot of anxiety, you've got all these chemicals running through you. And here's your mind supplying the food. It's saying to the body, why do you feel so bad? The body's saying, I don't know. Then the mind says, is it because of this? You didn't do this yesterday. And the body says, oh my God, I didn't do that. And the mind says, what about this? They work in partnership. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, if you can't get the mind to slow down, you go to the body and you say, okay, I'm going to teach you how to relax. So you do your breathing, you do it a couple of times a day. You commit a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It doesn't take that long, in 20 to 30 second increments, to teach your body how to feel good. Now, all of a sudden, the body feels good and it's self-regulating. So here comes the mind, and the mind says, feel pretty good, huh? The body goes, yeah, I really do. The mind goes, why? The body goes, I don't know. The mind goes, is it because of this? And it supplies a win. It supplies something good. Your body and your mind work together because they have to. This is your survival. So rather than allowing your mind to create scenarios, which are real or imagined, in order for your body to stay triggered all the time, once you teach your body how to relax and feel good, now your mind is starting to create scenarios in which are propping up the new way that you feel. You feel good because you went for a walk this morning. You feel good because you got this done. You feel good because you made that phone call. Mm-hmm. This is how they work together. They're the bras. Dude, what's happening? I don't know. So instead of them being at odds and egging each other on, all of a sudden, if you get them in a partnership, this is where you really see results.
Mm-hmm. I could not agree more on that statement.
Yeah.
You have to get the mind and the body working together. And
absolutely.
Really, the easiest way to do that I mean, I know 3 easy ways to do it. One is just journaling. So just writing stuff down, being mindful by doing that and kind of
Right.
going over your day, see how your day went,
Right.
that's one good way to do it. Another good way to do it is literally what you just said. And then the final good way to do it would be like ruminating with a friend for an extended period of time, but specifically about yourself.
Right.
I think those would be probably the 3 best ways I can think of.
I have another way that works for me, and it's actually something that my granddaughter taught me years ago when she was a little girl, and I would go and spend the night with her. We would sleep together, and of course, we talk like old ladies and little kids do, right? And every morning when she woke up, she would put her arms around my neck, and she would say, "Grandmama, I'm happy today because." So she would list one thing and she goes, "And then I'm happy today." So she would literally go through 4 or 5 things that she was happy about. Before we got out of bed, before we started the day, she had already set her mind to the fact that this was what was going to happen, that it was going to feel good, that she was going to enjoy it, that it was going to be a good day. And I do that to this day. In the morning, I think this is going to happen today. I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy this new client. I'm going to enjoy seeing Castle at 10 o'clock in the morning. This is going to be great. I set the tone of my day every day before I get out of bed. I list the things that are going to be good. At night, when I go to bed, I'd say, you know what? This was a good day. I did this, 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 and that. So I reinforce that positive thinking all the time. And it doesn't have to be big stuff. Sometimes it's all like, on my bad days, I'll say, gee, I didn't hit the couch till 4 instead of 2. You know what I'm saying? Always give yourself those little wins. Nobody is going to give you those wins that matter except you. You are the one that matters. You've got to give yourself those wins. And these are little things. They're not, I'm not going to say to you, go sit on a mountain and sit like this and not have a thought in your head for 6 hours.
That's what I was just going to say. That's what I was just going to say. Sorry.
Oh, really? So we're the same wavelength then.
Yeah, the mindfulness and the meditation, they have to go sit somewhere under a waterfall for an hour or a special location. No, it's like literally just sit down on your floor for 2 minutes, lay in your bed for 2 minutes, sit down on the kitchen table for 2 minutes. It's the
easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
You know what the Buddhists used to say? They used to say, before enlightenment, draw water and chop wood. After enlightenment, draw water and chop wood. You're going to do these things every day.
Yep. So I should add, by the way, while I'm thinking of it too, I know you know about this obviously, but gratitude. If you're looking to improve your life, become mindful, and you're in a relationship, here's some advice from me to you. Tell your partner, whoever you're in a relationship with, on a daily basis, whenever you happen to think of it, when you're thinking of it, tell them the things about them you love, you're grateful for, you're happy about. And if you do that to your partner, you feel good. You recognize how amazing your partner actually is instead of picking them apart constantly. They feel good. They return the favor. Your relationship gets stronger. You start looking for these things within your partner. You both get happier. The relationship gets better, and you both get more mindful in the process.
There you go. Here's the overview of all of that. At the end of the day, your mind and your body want to feel good. They want to feel good. There's only 2 things that a human being really does. When you strip it all away, we move away from pain towards pleasure. This is what we do. We move away from being static to movement. We're born to do that. So in your profession and my profession, we are trained to take people from one place to the other, but it's the simplest of motivations. And if you make someone feel good, you feel good. And when you have that return to you, you can walk around in this cloud of dopamine and oxytocin. That's like a really great drug. I love to make people feel good. When
I switched everything in my life to my one driving force, which is where it is now for a couple of years, in the beginning it was horrible and hard and scary. I never said it wasn't, but it was a very brief period of that time, and then I was so overcome with just motivation to succeed and joy with the people I was helping. And as you know, as a coach or as a therapist, you are only successful when your clients are successful. And what feels better than making them successful? Now, what feels better?
It's not about me. It is all about them. And to that end, I study constantly. I study, and I don't just study the people in my field. I study I study everybody. If somebody says something, if somebody says something good, something that I like, I can hear it in a movie, in a fantasy movie. I could hear it in The Witcher or anything, you know. I'm always gathering information and assessing and reassessing so that I can put it in a format that is going to benefit somebody someday, that's going to give them their aha moment. So you could look at it as almost like you've got this big chest of keys. There's big keys, there's little keys, there's old keys, there's new keys, because you know that if you take the time to get that key, that there is going to be someone in your path someday that is going to come to you and you'll have it. And then a whole new world blossoms for them.
Well, not only that, but on top of that, you're compounding and stacking your skills. So every time you learn a new thing, a cross-domain thing, that, I mean, you know this, it always translates to another domain. You never have knowledge in just one domain. It always translates to all domains.
It translates to all domains. And for myself personally, it gives me so much love and compassion for people. You know, it's because they're so programmed very badly, you know, and suffering from that. And not only programmed from just the things that they learned as children, but guess what? Maybe their parents were dysfunctional. Maybe their grandparents were dysfunctional. And can you imagine carrying generations of dysfunction on your shoulders and not even knowing that it's not your baggage to carry?
Yeah.
It's not yours. You know, how sad, awful is that? And so you look at the decisions that people make and you look at the things that they do, and they drink too much or they smoke too much, or they, you know, what have they got? They were never programmed well when it mattered, which is between the ages of 1 and 10, when your brain is at its most plastic, for them to ever make good decisions about themselves. They came from a long line of dysfunction. If you can break that habit, if you can break that, if you can separate what your own personal damage is from generational damage and parental damage and situational damage, you're so ahead of the game in every single way. You know, but you want to realize that first.
For anyone, we're going to wrap this up. I think we both think enough. But for anybody listening to this, a little helpful piece of advice is just, if you don't know where to start, and I can actually understand that because there's so much wrong in your life, you don't actually know where to start. I have a lot of people I help like that. Here's a good bit of advice for you. Get a pen and a piece of paper, go sit down somewhere quietly, and I would like you to observe yourself like a stranger. So what did you do today, yesterday, last week, and last month? Odds are very high they're the identical same freaking things. So write down on that piece of paper why you think you, the stranger, is doing those things, why you think the stranger should stop doing those things. It's a very efficient way of detaching yourself from your problems and finding rapid solutions to them. And these solutions can be anything. Leave nothing off the table, but just brainstorm. You know what I mean? Any solution is a solution. It doesn't have to be a good one, but it might channel into a different solution. Anything from taking psychedelics to a 2-week vacation, contacting Gloria, starting it doesn't matter what it is. Any solution is a solution. And once you have a list of those things, well, just start going through that list and applying them. It's better than doing nothing.
Sure. You know, that's what we call being in the seat of the observer. And I always say any movement is better than no movement. You know,
even if the movement's in the wrong direction, it doesn't matter. You learn something.
And who says it's wrong? It may lead you to something really super.
Exactly. Who knows what's good or bad? Anyway,
that's
so
right.
Who the hell?
But if you don't move, nothing will ever happen.
No, exactly. If you stay frozen in place, and we've already mentioned this, but basically when you're confronted with an obstacle, something that is a problem, a trouble, something in your way, we basically as humans have 3 responses. It's you can freeze in place. Oh, Jesus. You know, you can freeze in place, you can run and hide to save your life, or you can voluntarily choose to confront that monster. Now, here's the good thing with monsters, guys, is they're usually not these giant claws, fangs, teeth things that come with savage speed and crush us. These monsters are very slow moving, made up of hundreds of thousands of parts that you can destroy on a daily basis. And when you look at the monster and you see that it's just made up a bunch of, you know, furry bunnies, and it just looks like a big scary thing, you can just take one little thing every day and take care of it. But you have to be willing. You can ask
it what it needs and just love it some and watch it shrink down.
Yeah, and you have to do that. But if you don't address it, got news, it gets bigger. It doesn't stay the same. It gets bigger when you don't address your problems. As you get older, it will continue increasing in size, and it will continue to get harder to remove.
And it's heavier. At a certain point, you're not built to carry that into your life. As you get older, you get tired, you get exhausted. And this is when you want to dump the baggage. When you're young, you handle a lot of stuff, but imagine being 40 or 50 or 60 years old and having so much baggage. You're carrying this around all the time. You're trying to hug somebody who's got baggage. You can't get close to each other. No. You're trying to work in your home gym that you learned from Castle, and you have these bags. You can't move forward.
It's the same thing with relationships.
I'll get rid of your bags.
Same thing with relationships. How are you possibly going to have a healthy relationship if you are personally fucked up? It's not going to happen. Period. It will not happen. You cannot hope someone else is going to solve your own personal problems. That's not how it works. You fix them first, become healthy, then you can have a healthy relationship. Otherwise, you shouldn't be entering a relationship if you're covered in baggage, as you put it.
Right. Or if you're a fixer-upper. Nobody wants a fixer-upper.
Well, with people, I mean, cars and houses are kind of fun. But anyways, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Would you mind telling everybody where they can find you, how they can find you?
Sure. If you're interested in what I'm doing, if you want to get in contact with me, you can go to Instagram at hypnogoddess. That's HYPNOGDSS. My Facebook page is facebook.com/winterparkhypnosis. My website is gloriadanvershypnosis.com. And my email is gdanvers@gloriadanvershypnosis.com. It's a lot to write, but you only have to do it once, because the next time you can just cut and paste.
Well, don't worry, because all you guys, I'll include these links in the description. Just click on the description, open it up, and you just go ahead and click on her links and go there. She's amazing. She's helped a lot of people. She's helped many people I know. She's also helped Kathy. If anybody here is tuned into the podcast before, it's been a great help to Kathy. She's a wonderful person. She's helped me personally, and I would recommend her. We'll try to have her on the podcast again. I know you guys have a lot of questions after you watch this one, so put your questions in the comments below. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to this video if you found it helpful. And guys, please just remember, any little bit you can do for this channel is a huge help to me and Gloria. It takes you 1 second to leave a thumbs up or subscribe. It takes you no time at all. It's a giant help to us. So thank you for tuning in. Castle's Corner. Gloria, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It was so much fun. And bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.